Welcome back. Today we're going to look at this vintage vibe electric piano. We're going to have a look at the features of it, open it up and see what's inside. So what is the history of this instrument? This is a second hand, it's been gigged and well used, which is great because these instruments should be used and enjoyed. There's nothing worse than thinking that an instrument like this would be locked away. So I did see this advertised for sale, and it was more than I was willing to pay, but I did work out a deal that we both agreed on, and now I can say I'm now the owner of this piano. These don't seem to come up for sale that often, and when they do, it's often the shorter version. I have looked through the Vintage Vibe website and looked through the different piano ranges, and I really do like the 73 Deluxe. It seemed like the right one for me. So when one appeared, I did have to start a conversation and see where it leads. So the Deluxe version comes with a fiberglass lid and matching tines. There's also the variable voicing add-on that can be added to the Deluxe version, so that would be really interesting if we could manage to get our hands on one of those. But let's have a look at the outside. So on first impressions, it's a design of a clamshell case, very similar to a Wurlitzer 200, but with a glitter finish and fiberglass that just takes it to another level. This is not a new instrument, but it still shines and the glitter really does work as it should do. On the rear we've got Power Rain and a large Vintage Vibe logo, and on the front we've got active controls. Here we've got a volume, tone controls for bass and treble, and then some tremolo controls. One feature that I really do enjoy is that the cables are now on the underside when comparing this to a Fender Rhodes, and this keeps it away from the playing space. It does annoy me that on a Fender Rhodes piano the preamp outputs are over the bass range and you can sometimes hit them with your hand. You don't have that issue here. Vintage Vibe restore and produce replacement parts for a range of electric pianos, so it's really interesting to see in the design of this piano what they've took inspiration from. And you can see the Wurlitzer design in the case. And it'd be easy to assume that this piano would just be a recreation of a vintage Fender Rhodes created from reproduction parts that Vintage Vibe create. But it clearly is not the case. They've thought about each part and improved them where possible. Part of me does enjoy that a Fender Rhodes comes built into its own flight case. This means that it's really solid, it's well looked after, but it does take up a lot of floor space and it does make it bulky and heavy. Having this lighter case does have the benefit of having such a lighter piano, and this is probably going to be more of a studio piano for me, and having that reduction in floor space and weight is something I'm really welcome here. But that's enough of the outside, let's have a look inside. The first thing I notice is the pickups. I'm not sure if electrically these are different from reproduction pickups. I do enjoy the V logos on each of the pickups. These logos will only be seen during regulation or tuning the piano, but it's a nice detail inside. These pianos are expensive and it is nice to see that level of detail in there. So next we're going to look at the harp, and this is much smaller than a Fender Rhodes harp, and I guess this is to make the piano lighter. It's also nice to see another logo on the harp frame. This shows that the frame has been routed out, and I'd guess with some kind of CNC or program that accurately can cut out the harp repeatedly. This is a much more complicated shape than what's in a standard Fender Rhodes. I quite like it, it looks good. And then let's have a look at these tone bars and tines. These do look different to a vintage Fender Rhodes as they appear chrome rather than the zinc plated which appear gold. Chrome is harder than zinc, so I do wonder if that helps with fatigue life. It does look so much better opening up the case and seeing a whole shiny section of silver rather than dull gold. That's my opinion anyway. But speaking of opening it up and seeing something, it's nice to actually open up one of these instruments and see it actually clean inside. It is a refreshing change. So many other instruments are kind of open up. They're often quite dirty, grubby, can be mouldy, and that is one advantage of dealing with much newer instrument. So I'm just going to have a little play around with this, but that's it for this one. Please don't hate me for having too many pianos. But I just couldn't say no to it.